All right, so we'll just hammer through these opening slides real quick. Last time, and the last what, one or two sessions, we made sure to cover the 4 new felt products that we debuted. Keith, how was your kind of allocation effort going and getting that stack sample out to the different reps and things like that? Talk to us about that.
So it didn't get hit in time for the June July allocation. So we've got everything ready to go for the August allocation, and then we've got a kind of a new way to house these documents that's going to be a lot more visual for the reps, and we've got an internal call on Friday that we'll go over that with them.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. So
and the new cut sheets will be previewed as well, and those look fantastic. They're a part of this new visual way of searching the documents as well.
Yeah, and part of those new cut sheets, we're adding certification information, sustainability information, storage and handling, and so they're fleshed out a little bit more and then kind of tightened up and cleaned up. So hopefully that'll be good for everybody. So yeah, those are our 4 new products. You have the cloud in the upper left-hand corner. You can specify in various thicknesses. 2 vertical baffles, the drop and the skyline, and then lay in 3-dimensional felt ceiling tiles. So we have pricing for all of those things. They're in all of the systems, whether it's our Salesforce, your kind of management systems, things like that. So we can start kind of teasing those. And then as Keith said, we will sprinkle some marketing materials and samples out to everyone as well.
Yeah, tease away. It's a bonus for the people that are on here.
So quick recap, we are in session 8. Daniel, everybody was knocking down the door when Daniel was in California to make sure to spend some time on hardware. So we kind of repositioned the sessions a little bit and decided to do hardware last session, which was 2 weeks ago. If you were not here for that, because that was the lighter session, we definitely asked you to go back and watch that video, mainly because there was just so much interest in San Diego for that session. So I want to make sure everyone knows that it's out there, knows how to access and can look at that hardware overview, get some more exposure to the different hardware components, to panels and planks and tiles and clouds and all those different things. So it was a good session. So today we are doing visibility and presence. It says up there, how do you earn enough attention, relevance, and trust to be remembered when the need appears? For this session, I dove a little bit deeper than I had done in the past. As you guys know, I talked to some of the highest performing reps and some of the reps that were getting a lot of traction out in the field. So I overlaid that knowledge and data, of course, but I also went and surveyed architects for this and tried to get their take and what works for them for visibility and presence when you're introducing a product, or maybe you have some initial interest and now you need to talk more about the product, help them solution, things like that. So we looked at our sales folks, but we also looked at architects. So the key here is to get recognized, be recognized. And what I mean by that is get recognized is, oh, I know who that is. That's XYZ who helps me with this. But the part about it is like be recognized is like earn the recognition after the fact. Like, so get recognized, be recognized. It's called visibility and presence. Visibility is getting someone to kind of notice you, but presence is about almost the emotions behind it. It creates that sense of accessibility. Are you useful? Are you safe to continue to involve into future projects? So we have about 10 slides today, a ton of content. As we always say, take what works for you, leave what doesn't, but use this as conversation with you and your teammates also. The interesting part about surveying architects was this tension. Some of them said, come see us, love to see you. And some architects said, please leave us alone. And when I'm walking through the office and you see me, please don't grab me as I'm going to grab my lunch. Keep us informed, but also I can't have you guys emailing me every day and my inbox just getting 40, 50, 60 people in my inbox, because we have to think that there are other manufacturers and representatives out there. They love technical resources, but then they'll also tell you they don't have time to take a 35-minute CEU presentation. So what we're learning here is that there's a lot of contradictions out there, and it really depends on the firms, the role they have, what stage the project is in, the different communication and the channels, what info they need at what time. So, they were all over the place. But what we know is that they love responsive, informed representatives, but can also simultaneously feel overwhelmed by how much time they need to give. There were reports out there that architects were saying that they were spending 5 to 6 hours a week just managing all the reps that were coming in and out of their lives, whether it was on a project or for a CEU, for a library update. And for them, that's taking away the work that they need to do. But they also recognize that they need it. So, some want CEUs and some are burnout. So the big thing that we started mentioning 2 sessions ago is kind of context sales and context marketing. And what that means is available, permission, personal, authentic, and purposeful. Right? So you have these 5 things that you're trying to hit when you're going in and making these relationships. And, there's no test. But those are kind of the 5 things that are going to make up a really good relationship. And there's no correct channel to access your contacts. And there's no correct cadence. It's not like all architects want to hear from you every 3 weeks via text. It doesn't work like that. They're all different. And one person is different depending on what they're working on and at different times. So there's only a kind of more or less appropriate approach for your customer. And it's kind of in the moment of need. How can you solve for things in that moment? And it's not a pass-fail. It's not an A/B. It's not a binary. It's not, wow, this architect and this architect hates me. We have to do our best to learn about our folks, what they're working on, what their needs are to present them the correct information in that moment. So competition is attention. As I said, like that quote there, 4 to 6 hours on some days just managing with bookings and rep calls and things. And so you're competing with project deadlines for the architect, billable work, internal coordination, 80 emails a day. So you're competing with all of that noise, not just another manufacturer out there, not just another acoustics company. And we also got that other quote: we can't speak with every representative and still have enough time left to design the projects and create work for those same manufacturers. So visibility is not the right to someone's attention. Visibility just gives you that moment to earn more of their attention and to start earning that trust. And we'll see later in the deck that it's cyclical. The more trust that you earn, the more phone calls that you're going to get. The more phone calls that you get, the more kind of heavy lifting that you can do for them. Visibility is not frequency. The outcome depends on what accompanies the contact. And it's largely about being useful. So it's a repeated combination of being physically present, bringing something useful to the conversation, asking good questions that unlock ideas, unlock opportunity, unlock risk is a big one. Create a reason to connect. Don't just pop in. Hey, how are you today? Just wanted to see what color shirt you're wearing, right? It's like, okay, what's my angle here? Oh, last time I was in, they talked about they were working on a restaurant. I'm going to reach out to somebody else on my team who's just done acoustics in a restaurant and get a little anecdote to share with them, little facts and data, something. So you need to follow through and staying active. These are 2 quotes that I took directly from the interviews. My most meaningful outreach is in person, but I have to offer something rather than simply asking how someone is doing. And then this one, Tuesday through Thursday, is for field activity. And as an experienced rep, I can't rest on the same familiar accounts. That came up actually quite often when I was talking to folks. is you kind of have these moments of momentum, and you get out there and you're excited and you're hustling and you're meeting new people. And then you have other moments where you're just kind of making sure that your old standards, your old standby, your strong relationships are just continuing. But you have to mix and match. You can't just rely on one or the other. Consistency creates familiarity. Usefulness determines whether that familiarity becomes trust or noise. A big component to the architect side of this, I thought this was really interesting. I actually emailed myself 2 quotes, but a sales rep was asking a group of architects how they liked to be exposed to new products, new reps, solutions, solutioning, and 2 reps both said that they want to learn and meet reps through contractors. That there's no better way to get to an architect other than a contractor. Contractor is like number 1. And they trust their contractors, and they also trust their coworkers. And they said specifically, we are talking about you. So your name, your solutions gets passed around the office on a weekly basis. So by accessing one rep, you're actually accessing the entire firm. And by having good relationships with the contractors on the project, you are also then opened up to a bunch of opportunity there as well. There are 2 sides to this. There's the physical side of it. This is what I've come to know for a long time, what we train for, what we hear about. You know, one thing we don't do a lot of training for that I know of, kind of on the, let's say, the 1775 side, when you visit here and things like that, is the digital side of this. A lot of the reps that I had talked to, plus I know Anthony talks about it a lot as well, is that your digital activity is equally as important to your physical interaction. And the physical interactions, there's reasons for doing those. And then there's reasons for doing the digital activity. You know, being in front of them on LinkedIn or a text or something like that, right? Digital, even if it's paid advertising by, you know, Keith and Brian, whatever it is, whatever that digital touch point is, it allows you to remain visible between visits, reach out to people without having to have long, complicated meetings. Share project proof. You could do little white papers and anecdotes, and we're going to talk about kind of what this might look like if you are interested in doing this. It's also teasing solutions for future conversations and future solutioning. So physical presence builds depths, digital maintains continuity.
Continuity.
Yeah.
Continuity.
Antiquity. Earn the pull. What does earn the pull mean? In sales and marketing, we have push and we have pull. Push is, look at me, I want to drop in, I want to do this, I'm going to get in front of you. Pull is them coming to you. And we have to earn the pull. And it starts with just being seen, right? That's the visibility aspect of it. And these are emails and presentations and library updates. But once you can start being useful, you can start asking and answering questions, providing details, help them identify risks that they don't even know. I can't tell you how many times I overhear Daniel and his team in this room ask questions in his consult calls, and it's about something that the architects and designers have never even thought of. And it can be something amazing like, hey, what are you doing with this cafeteria space? Well, you know, we're going to do a couple of this and some padding on the walls for the basketball games. And Daniel goes, no, you need real acoustics in this space, and can unlock a whole different space. But also it helps identify risks with installation and hardware and finding the right contractor and classes of finishes and all sorts of different things. And Daniel's able to slowly earn their attention and their trust, which leads to layer 3. So that layer 2 creates relevance, and the layer 1 creates awareness.
As soon as you start solving problems for your architects, you've started to earn that pull. There's 4 jobs right now in our pipeline that production is either working on or getting ready to work on, or is slated for production, in the next month or two, that are simply in our pipeline because we've earned the trust of that designer that they don't want anyone else to touch this project, right? And so that being useful and dependable is where, as he says, you earn that pull. That's where you earn that, hey, it's wood, we're going here. We're not going anywhere else. I'm going there. You guys have a unique ability against some of the other folks out there because you have wall coverings, you have wood, you have architectural millwork panels, you have acoustics. So you're not just in there for one thing. You have all these different solutions, and being able to leverage them and solve problems for them across the board. Even if you solve a problem for them on acoustics, it's going to be a lot easier for you on the wall covering side, and vice versa, right? And so being able to have that breadth of product, as soon as you start being useful and you start identifying and solving problems for them, that's where it really comes big and starts to pay off. And those jobs I mentioned were kind of what Brock brought up in the consultations calls we had with them. We asked them questions that they had never thought of before. And then we explained the differences in the options that they had and educated them in such a way that they finally felt comfortable with someone doing this project. They wanted it to look a certain way. They didn't know if it was ever going to come out that way. Well, we helped them find the questions that they didn't even know that needed to be asked. And so that's where the being useful is so important, is asking those questions to find those pain points and find those problems that you can solve for them. They can be big and they can be small, but once you start solving them, that's when it really starts to be a game changer for you with that architect and that firm.
That third layer, dependability, is the way that I see it is it's repeatability and preference. Because once you're seen, you now get the chance to be useful. And then once you're useful, you get the chance to prove it time after time, project after project, and they can start to see how much they can depend on you. So I kind of consider this like the mature presence. If you're out there and you're maintaining and continue to strengthen your presence, and what happens is the customer ends up calling you or asking you for advice or introducing you to new products or sending you drawings out of the blue or just seeking reassurance or saying, I have this really complex space that I just need to talk through. You become a collaborator for them. So there's a lot going on this slide, but I want to dive in more to context. And we talked about the APPPA of context. This is another way to look at it. It's the person, it's the moment, it's the need, then the method, which is the channel, and then the value. What value are you bringing to them, and what value are they bringing to you? And it's cyclical. Getting better context equals greater relevance in the conversation. And being more relevant to them means that they're going to give you more attention. More attention means that they're going to strengthen that relationship. It starts to be just a pop-in, somebody that I see every 4 months, but somebody that they can really rely on. And if they're relying on you, you have much more influence in their life. You have much more influence in their decision-making. And when that happens, you're going to get better context for the next project. So as we're reaching out and as we're becoming visible and we're becoming present, these are the 5 things that you consider before making those contacts. We in Loveland think about this, and we've kind of distilled it down to thoughtfulness. We try to be thoughtful in everything that we do, every communication that we have, right? When Daniel calls me on my cell phone and I answer it, how am I coming to Daniel? and what am I providing him? And I'm thinking about who he is, what he's working on, what's going on that particular day, what things he might be working on. Okay, he's calling me in the morning. It might be related to this. What does he need? Active listening. He, called me via phone. So if it maybe gets too detailed, I start thinking about, oh, this looks like a great opportunity to do a meeting. So we'll talk for 15. I'll say, hey, let's schedule a quick 30 minutes this afternoon. And I would love to dive into those drawings. I'm not going to try to abstractly understand your drawings over the phone. And then make sure that I've provided value to Daniel in that phone call, and that I got something out of it as well. So the right message to the right person at the right moment, the right method, and make sure we have clear value. So this is that cyclical kind of journey. So before we go in and do a CEU, before we go to update a library, before we make a phone call, before we send an email, who it is, why is now the right time, and why, what does time have to do with it? Where are they at in this project? What are they working on? What are they focused on? And how can I bring value in that moment that I'm contacting them? And then what's the next step? What are they leaving with, and what am I leaving with? We should always leave with those next steps for those contacts, which leads into then the who again next time you reach out. So it's just time after time after time. And this is what was coming up as I was talking, interviewing folks, and reading architects' responses. So digital presence does not mean you're becoming an influencer. These are examples of how people have leveraged a digital presence. Rich emails. And I know this can get a little bit touchy. And I know Keith and every marketing department is like, wait, what are you sending? Why are you sending? What pictures are you using? What logo? Like all of those different things. So totally understand. And it really depends on the organization. It depends on how comfortable you are. Doesn't hurt to go get buy-in from people. But good informational emails with images and things can do a lot of lifting for you. Somebody relayed a story in the interviews about, it was right before the holiday break. And typically what they usually would do is kind of do like a happy holidays, have a great new year. And instead, they said that they know that at the end of the year, stuff gets really busy. And some of the architects are working 10 and 12-hour days trying to wrap up projects so they can take 2 or 3 weeks off and spend time with their family. They are burning it at both ends. So instead of saying happy holidays, they said, what are you working on and how can I help? And someone immediately called back and they were solutioning a project that same afternoon. So again, that is context, and that is accessing digital right there. It's a perfect example of that. LinkedIn posts are huge for some of our sales reps. Like I said, Anthony, I've heard him say multiple times that it is probably his best channel that he has to continue conversations, to learn about projects, to provide information, to show new products, and just stay useful and relevant in people's lives. He loves sharing observations and pictures from the field, a case study. And it doesn't even have to be a case study by your brand. I saw an article popped up on LinkedIn the other day. And it said that fish farms see a significant drop in the amount of production they get when they have loud noises at the fish farm. Right? That's interesting to me as somebody who deals in acoustics. And that's an interesting little anecdote that you could pass along to somebody. That yes, we know study after study shows that sound equals stress and stress equals low productivity. And here's just another fact. And it can lead into good conversations and studies and white papers and all sorts of past projects and all sorts of different things. And all of that can be found on LinkedIn. That's where I found it. LinkedIn comments is a great way to stay visible without having to, sit down and think like, what the heck am I going to post this week or this month or whatever. It's just a simple concept can be really interesting for folks. So a couple quick notes. digital presence, then what we're talking about with emails and LinkedIn and social, all sorts of different things, it's not related to popularity. You know, if you're only visible when you're in the room, what's that? 3 or 4 times a year? You know, digital allows us to be just present and in front of people more often and provide value more often. This is a big one for us, manufacturer content with rep context. You know, on the Sonus side, when I find some of these articles, I post them as Sonus. And then I immediately respond to them as Brock Masterson with my own take. So a lot of times the company could just post a news article or a study or a white paper. And then what I do is I'll hop in there and provide a little bit more context and content or imagery or whatever it takes related to that. A little story, a little anecdote. Oh, there was this problem, but we solved X, or I was involved in this area of this project, things like that. It's a huge one. And then lastly, blogs and articles. Digital presence must reduce effort. This is what came from the architects that I surveyed. Online presence is the most important because we can evaluate the relevance to us on our own time. And somebody specifically said, I need easy to navigate websites, downloadable spec docs, fast samples, and accessible technical resources. And that's what the mode site needs to be able to do. It needs to be easy to navigate and pop around, easy to find docs, everything is accurate, and then all the pretty pictures to go with it. So digital is not just LinkedIn and email. It also includes being findable and usable when you aren't present. So you could look at social visibility, technical visibility, and service visibility. I know how I can reach you. I can use you, and social, I remember you. So if you leave with one takeaway, I want you to leave with these 6 takeaways. 100% I'm right 50% of the time. Attention is scarce. It's the first thing we talked about. Visibility is not presence. Presence is felt. Presence is emotional. Presence is a relationship. Visibility means they've encountered you. Presence means they remember, trust, and will access you. Context beats cadence every time. They do not want to be reached out to on a 2-week cadence, or monthly, or daily, or bi-yearly. They want you to consider what they're going through, what they're working on, what their possible goals are, and have you relate something to them that can be useful, provide value through context. Physical creates depth. Digital is
What?
physical. Are you paying attention?
Yeah.
Physical creates depth.
I didn't lock,
Digital
got you locked up.
I wasn't ready for that.
Bring a reason to engage. Number 5, reason, value, proof, data, solving, identifying risk. What's the reason? The reason is not necessarily, hey, we have shiny new products. That's a good reason. But how are you going to contextually relate it to them? And become known for something. You do not want to be known as the mode rep. Oh, there's the mode rep. You want to be known as the person I call when acoustics, materials, or execution is starting to become pretty damn complicated right now. Let's call Linko.
Linko, I'm going to actually call you out here for a moment because I've been thinking about this being useful, and we had a call yesterday. Linko, is Nabholes, is that a design build firm where they do their designs and then they build, or are they just a construction firm?
They do both.
Okay.
So kind of like everything. They have And then the designer, she's part of the Napos family, so they do a lot of their design, but they work with the Napos team. So it's
Gotcha.
short
Yeah.
answer is they kind of do everything. Yeah.
Yeah, design build. So I had a very clear perception of how that call went. And I'm curious, when that call started, how nervous do you think they were about this project?
Oh, I think they were very nervous. Well, I shouldn't say they were very nervous. I think the designer was kind of nervous because she really, as I come to find out later, she really was not that familiar with not only our product, but the whole, using the wood veneer
Right.
acoustics and the regular panels. So I think she was very nervous in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of hold her hand a little bit.
Yeah. So I got that too, that they were kind of nervous. They weren't sure how this is all going to go together. They weren't sure about, she had a vision that she absolutely wanted. And she wants to make sure that when this is said and done, like that vision's there, that space looks like the way she envisioned it.
Right.
How nervous do you think they were at the end of that call?
Oh, I think they were very confident. So thank you very much. I meant to reach out to you. I really appreciate that call yesterday because they were you kind of put everything at ease. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And I point that out not to raise my hand and say I'm great. I point it out because those are the types of calls where now Linko is useful.
Finally.
For that,
Finally.
sorry, not saying you weren't before, but to them specifically, okay, they have helped me solve a problem. They've calmed my fears. They asked questions. They talked about the installation in ways we hadn't thought about. They helped us find ways to make this easier, not only on them, but on us. And so we were able to talk through their concerns without them actually stating a lot of their concerns, right? You could just feel that there was a lot of concerns. And so I was able to ask enough questions and we were able to talk through those to where now they are extremely comfortable. They're excited to get the product. They can't wait to see what it looks like at the end. And now our team is right now that they're going to start tomorrow on going and delivering on that. Right. So that's the next step.
Right.
So,
and especially as Trey, he's the millwork project manager. So there was some stuff that I really do appreciate. He was like, well, this is kind of how we did it before. What do you think? Should we do this or is this a better way? So, I know he appreciate, all of the input that, he probably didn't think of or hasn't encountered in the past. So very well. I really appreciate that.
I will toot my own horn. I think one of my favorite comments from him was, wow, you guys are way better at this than we are.
Yeah. So that was good.
So that's part of that mature presence, right? Is kind of earning your usefulness, or the concept is you as a resource. And Daniel, you talked a little bit about it, I think, in San Diego with the advise takeaway one sheet that we gave everybody. And there was that question on there. It was the one, if you're going to ask one question when you leave, what was that one question? Do you remember?
What do I have to do to earn this spec?
And so that's the type of open-ended questions that you can ask when you're visible or starting to gain presence to sort of unlock more conversation. Go through that advise framework. And I think we might add an extra session at the end of this 12-session program. I think Kevin wants to give the advise session. I think he's kind of scheduling that with Keith here in a few weeks. But that will go in deeper into earning that mature presence. Last thing, the complete rep. So if you cross-reference the 6 interviews I had and all the responses from the architects, these were the 5 things that came up. Habits that consistently emerged. Field time must be protected at all cost. I kept hearing stories and anecdotes of I'm going to sit from behind my desk and send some emails and make some phone calls. And every single person that had that experience all said that they are way more successful by getting out into the field, being physically present. Every interaction needs a reason. Provide value at every moment. The end goal is resource status, right? That collaborator. Always be thinking about, how am I going to earn resource status in this relationship? This one was interesting to me. Visibility requires courage. I couldn't tell you how many times I heard a similar story of sitting in your car in the parking lot of an architecture firm at 2:30 and everything inside of you is going, I don't want to go in there. I've done enough of this today. I've talked to enough people. I've been in enough libraries. I've driven around. I've sat in traffic. I don't want to go in there. And every person said, take a deep breath, pop some gum in, and walk into that room. So visibility requires courage. And then the last one, existing relationships are not enough. And it's kind of part of that field time must be protected. We always need to be developing new relationships. There's reps going from firm to firm. They're getting raises, they're getting fired, they're getting new responsibilities, their roles changing. So we're got to be constantly out there. What the reps were saying to me, constantly out there developing new relationships, whether that's going to an AIA event or a Chamber of Commerce or doing pop-ins, or heard stories of bringing in a box of breakfast burritos and just setting up a table one morning from 6:30 to 8 to try something new. It was kind of in between a CEU and a visit and a library update. It was just trying new stuff and exposing yourself to new people. So that is what I've coined the complete rep. And that wraps up session number 8.
I think Whitney had a comment that just popped up about our lightweight material.
Yeah, I saw that. The baffles, especially when you're talking about the felt ones, those are extremely light. And
Read the question.
It wasn't a question. She said, totally off topic. I'm amazed with how light our products are compared to competing product like baffles. Saves on freight. With the wood, because there's not really another company out there that does the all-encompassing wood baffles. They do this real solid wood baffle with an acoustic infill blanket. Ours are always going to be extremely lighter. Makes them easier to install. You can handle them one at a time instead of this whole kind of unit that they've got to install. So it really helps with installation. So that is great. I also saw someone pop their hand up and then it went down.
That's a lot cheaper to ship too. I think we miss that point sometimes, that weight is money when it comes to shipping, and lightweight products are cheaper to ship.
To a degree, with how large our stuff is and the crates that we put this in, you actually get charged based on the volume and the weight ratio. And so if you have lots of volume and low weight, it can actually sometimes increase. So there's little various with weight, but as far as the freight goes, but it is so much easier to handle and install, and it reduces the time to install, which can reduce the overall cost of installation. That's where you're saving a lot of the money. Freight, there's probably some savings there, but not as significant as we might think. Because if this is going like FedEx, UPS, things like that, absolutely it would save a ton of money there. But with the LTL, it's marginal.
It saves us on the sampling side for sure.
Yeah, on the sampling side for sure. You're right. I thought it was Jennifer. Did someone raise their hand and take it down?
Yeah, that was me. I was actually trying to do the clapping emoji and so it wasn't.
Well, you're on the spot now. What do you have to say?
Well, I thought this was super great. It's all stuff that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Just visibility. I see everyone clapping now. It, not being about consuming someone's attention, because that's been my biggest struggle in trying to just kind of find my digital presence with firms, as I've come to learn so many of them will, have me in once a year, maybe, knowing that digital presence is important, not knowing, exactly how to go about that. But I just, I want to stay useful. I don't want to just be consuming people's attention. So all of that really resonated with me, and definitely aligns with feedback I've been getting from designers about how little time they have. So yeah, I've had some good mode experiences. I've got a bunch, getting into specifications currently. So I think that after having successful, helpful consultations, it's starting to stack up all these opportunities where we've earned trust. So yeah, thanks for putting all this together, though.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? It doesn't have to be about the topic and the content today. We can help solution, problem solve, talk about more sales enablement stuff. Is there anything that we can do for you out in the field, or Keith or Brian or me or anybody, resources? Anybody have anything else?
Are there plans for the website to get kind of a refresh? That's definitely something that I'd love to be able to send to designers as a really helpful, easy to navigate resource. Currently, it's been kind of difficult because things are hidden, and I find it needs a lot of explaining.
Yeah, we've got a budget and a quote and a firm identified, Jennifer. We have to secure the funds is our next step.
Okay.
Great question.
After you secure the
I had a
funds.
question as well, actually, when I was going through this deck and reading all of the architect responses, that your website has to be like top notch, sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, it's just perfect, more ammo for us to go back and really, really focus on that in the next few months.
I know I've said this before, but I would love to see just an overall thumbnails of all the different products, and you just click and it takes you exactly where it needs to go.
Yep. So Jill mentioned she's excited to get some actual samples. Jill, tell us what's the difference between a sample and an actual sample.
Oh, when we get them in hand, hello. We're ready to get some of those samples we saw at San Diego. I'm excited to get some
samples of the new product.
Gotcha.
Yes,
yeah.
the new product.
We have them built, and Keith has them in his office right now. And
Keith.
They're not in my office anymore. They're on the allocation table.
Yay.
Prep to go out. So
he's gonna send them to you like a frisbee. It's gonna be like a
Oh,
UFO.
that's gonna be awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Can we get clarification on the wood acoustic baffles? They're thinner now than maybe the originals that we got maybe like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Or so.
That's right.
So one of the things we talked about in San Diego was evolution of wood. We're always kind of tinkering with our process to make things easier, lower cost for us to build, all that kind of stuff, like reduce build times, all those types of things are always going in. So there's always kind of tweaks that are happening that aren't anything that really needs to always be mentioned or brought up. So they, instead of 2.5, they're 2 3/16, or instead of 2 1/4, they're 2 3/16, is what, and it's just the way that we plane and the way that we prep all of our materials. It gives us a cleaner look, and we're able to have a more consistent width than we were when a lot of you got the first iterations of those baffles. Now we have 0, because we used to sometimes see a little bit of hourglassing or bowing in the center of that baffle. Some of you might have some of those where there is a little bit of that. We've eliminated all of that. One of the things that we have done, it did reduce the width of that baffle to 2 3/16. So the new cut sheets
or pre-production.
What's that?
With the samples or actual production?
Well, we don't really sample the wood baffles. You guys have them. You
Right.
guys get the demos. So production is all done the same way. So the new samples that have been going out, like the new reps that just got theirs, it's all, I don't know how far back it's been where the samples are reflective of exactly what we're building now as the product. But yeah, so everything going forward is that 2 3/16.
Okay.
Great question. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time. I know that we've established this isn't a great time, and it feels like we're close to the end. We might just have to stick with this one this time, but we do appreciate you guys hopping on and giving us a little bit of time to talk your ears off. So